What a win. What a win. Also, way to teach me how to turn on a microphone. It's been a while. Whole day of not working. This is Raptors postgame. I'm J.D. Bunkis, joined by Donnovan Bennett. Raptors crush the lowly Orlando Magic, who, I gotta say, if you want to tank, you go to Jeff Weltman and Frank Vogel, and you take a page out of that book. The Raptors sit DeMar DeRozan. They sit Jonas Valanciunas. They lose Fred VanVleet to injury. They lose Lucas Nogueira to injury. I know he's the 12th man, but whatever. And yet still, the Raptors had names playing in that game for the entirety of it. The Magic, on the other hand, do you know who Wesley Iwundu was before today? 4-7, 26 minutes. Gave him some good looks. Jamel Artis out of Pittsburgh, apparently. That's a guy. And who could forget the minutes of one Rodney Purvis, who got 8 minutes in this game, former UConn Husky. Wow, that Magic team is something to behold. That was fun.
Got to develop your future, JD.
I don't think that any of those guys are part of the future.
Well, you got to find out.
So there's nothing left on the line. The Raptors have now reached the purgatory phase of the season where I guess if you want the Raptors to get 60 wins, which I do, I hope the Raptors get 60 wins. I think that there is meaning to a 60-win season, especially since I still believe that the Raptors should hang a regular season banner for finishing first in the Eastern Conference, and it would sure look nice if it just had 60 wins on it. That would be pretty. That would be very pretty. But outside of the hunt for 60 wins, not much to take away from this. You sit a couple of your starters tonight. You give a look to some other guys. I'm not necessarily sure what you're looking for in these games. I'm trying to trick myself into thinking that there's a couple of things that I'd like to see. But I'll start with you in terms of when you came into tonight, was there something that you were hoping to see and then maybe it was either justified or you ignored it quickly and it turned into something else?
To be honest, I was just hoping that everyone would leave the game healthy, leave the game the way they started the game, and that did not happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a way, not to put a damper on this party, but that is a bit concerning. I think, especially in the case of Fred, it's super precautionary. Just had a little bit of back tightness, back soreness. If it was Game 7 of the first round or any round, I believe he would have got through it. And I love the fact that they started the game with some intensity, with some intent, even though there were two new starters in the starting lineup. Ended the first quarter plus 11 on the Magic. And so first quarters have been an issue. And the attention to detail, given that the staff was kind of saying, well, we don't care that much because one of our all-stars and our starting center are not going to play.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that fact. Those were my positive and I don't want to say negative, but my concerned takeaways. Yourself?
I'm not going to read too much into CJ Miles. I'm just going to say that right now. I don't think that anything he does in the next 3 regular season games is going to change my opinion about what he's looked like for the last month and a half.
Well, but isn't the basket still 22, 23, 24 feet when he's hitting those threes?
I'm just prefacing this in terms of things that happened tonight that I'm not taking great meaning from. Maybe it's a little unfair.
But if he went 0 for 10 from 3, would you take meaning from that?
No. I would say he's still. You're right. I'd prefer this result, no question. I'd prefer him knocking down some shots, but meaningless wide open threes or meaningless bad shots from deep that he wouldn't be taking in a playoff game. And there were some. There were some that he is not taking in a playoff game. Those are not all green light shots he took tonight. I'm not going to take too much into it, which is a little bit unfair because I was putting stock in one veteran. There's one guy that I was looking at the most heading into this stretch because he's not going to play tomorrow night. At least I don't think so. I highly doubt they're going to play him in a back-to-back, and that's Serge Ibaka. The dude heading into this game, in his last 7 games, had been lights out. And now we've got an 8-game sample size of Serge Ibaka heading into the playoffs. And again, probably sits tomorrow night. This might have even been Serge Ibaka's last regular season game of the season, or at least last time he played regular season minutes. So I was looking at him, and I was trying to figure out what the last 8 games have looked like for Serge. They've been terrific. He's shooting 56% from the floor, 50% now from 3 on 33s in over an 8-game stretch. He's got 2 blocks a game. He had a bunch of blocks again tonight, some of them all different ways, coming from help blocks to standing straight up and swatting guys. Just looks like he's playing with a different kind of energy. And the thing I really like about Serge's game right now, and I liked it tonight as well, because I thought that maybe there was going to be a forcing of the issue that he's facing his old team. And I know he doesn't have a big history with the Orlando Magic. This isn't something where he's going back and they're doing the Serge Ibaka tribute video for him in Orlando. But still, there's probably some reason for him to want to show out his old team and show people, because that's the place kind of where we lost the luster of Serge Ibaka as, hey, definitively this guy can't be your guy or probably even your number 2 guy and do anything much. So Serge goes back, and I thought maybe he would be pressing a little bit tonight. Just played a nice, controlled, calm, good basketball game that we've seen from Serge for a while now, for that 8-game span heading into the postseason, where he's averaging that 15 and 8 and 2 blocks on good shooting numbers. And what I really liked in particular about tonight, about Serge Ibaka, and what I'm really comforted by, is that he continues to move the basketball and make better decisions. One of my biggest disappointments with Serge Ibaka, or one of my biggest points of critique, is that, and I think that you'd agree with this, is oftentimes he tries to do a little bit too much with the dribble when he gets into traffic. That I'm not a big fan of his floater game. I don't know how you are about it, but pretty much with Serge Ibaka and his offense, I want to see him either trying to drop in a putback or one of those little hook shots that he does, or shooting a wide open 3, or stepping into a long 2. Tonight, he had a couple of opportunities where he pump faked the 3, took a couple of dribbles in, and on one he found Norman Powell for a wide open 3, and then on the other one he found Norm again, but Norm quickly swung it into the corner for an OG and an OB3. And I really think that for Serge Ibaka, as one of the difference makers in this postseason, and who's establishing himself as, like, without a doubt, the 3rd most important guy on the Raptors, ahead of anybody on the bench on any given night, that Serge is establishing himself on this, during this stretch of play, as a guy that the Raptors are going to need this from. That type of offense, this type of rebounding, that type of shot blocking, that leads the Raptors into a whole new conversation in terms of what they're going to look like against the Cavs, because he gives them something that they haven't had in a really long time during this stretch, which is a lights-out power forward, a legitimate number 3.
Yeah, he's played well. And I think the question, and we've had this in hockey, this has been the question for the Leafs for, it feels like, 3 months. Now, in a way, you're going to have it for the Raptors in 3 games, tonight and the next 2. Mm-hmm. That proverbial question, rest or rust? Do you continue to play someone and they're feeling good and they're finding their spots on the floor, or do you save them at times, if you're an elite athlete, from themselves, take them out of games no matter the rhythm? Because even if they are a bit rusty, rust can come off in a half, a game. If you get hurt, if you sprain an ankle, you strain a ligament, that won't get better in a half or a game.
How do you feel about that over the next 2 games? Like, how do you feel the Raptors should be handling this from a starter standpoint? Because they gave DeMar the night off tonight, and I feel like they're going to let him play the next 2 because he still needs to get back in that rhythm more than he needs the rest, in my opinion.
Shut him down. Shut him down.
You don't want to see him play at all?
Shut him down.
You think he's fine, no matter what scenario? You're happy with what he's looked like the last month?
Maybe I'm risk averse.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm a pessimist, but if I'm the coach, and this is the best team I've had, the best record I've had, the best seed I've had, the best bracket I'm going to have. Well, it could be. It depends if the Cavs decide to mess it up.
They already have.
If there's still some time. If DeMar DeRozan is playing at the Palace of, well, it's not the Palace of Auburn Hills anymore. If DeMar DeRozan is playing at the Little Caesars Palace, whatever they're calling that place now, and someone rolls into his knee, he lands on a foot, something that happens every night in the association. Ask the Warriors, and he's either hobbled or unable to play. Am I getting to sleep that night?
Sure.
I don't think I am. So,
what do you think's more likely?
It doesn't matter. If I put him in bubble wrap, I know that Sunday at 12 or Sunday at 5 or Saturday at 12:30 or whatever terrible time slot this team is going to get for the NBA TV special, I know he's going to take the floor. And so will he be rusty? Will he be super rested? I don't know. But I know for sure he's going to be there. Again, maybe I'm risk averse, but I just would not be able to live with myself if for whatever reason in the year where NBA stars are dropping like flies, DeMar or Kyle or even Serge. Serge is the one I would really give a long look to because he's playing so
He's
well.
not playing tomorrow, though. There's no way he's playing on a back-to-back. The minutes that he's played. You got to sit him. You got to sit him. Tomorrow, there's no back-to-backs anymore.
I'm not Dwayne Casey.
But you're not gassing out your guys. You're not gassing out your guys. I'd almost be willing to put serious money on the fact that Serge doesn't play tomorrow. In fact, I'd almost be surprised he plays this season.
We shall see.
Yeah, I think he's out. Ryan from Woodbridge. Ryan _ from Woodbridge. You asked for close games. Raps delivered. You asked for the top 5 defense and top 5 offense to return. It did. You asked CJ Miles, OG Anunoby, and the rest of the bench mob to restart the fire. They did. The only question left, are you not entertained?
I'm totally entertained. Also, remember that Lucas Nogueira, who was supposed to play big minutes tonight, got hurt early, and Jakob Poeltl, who did play big minutes tonight, was hobbled. So,
he looked okay, though, in the end.
Sure. You have to consider those things when you say that Serge isn't playing tomorrow and may not play for the rest of the season. I think those are part of the things you're evaluating in that conversation.
Yeah, I agree with you in terms of, like, you don't want to let things go with Serge because he is playing so well. I just think out of everyone, we have a track record that shows this player, it's very important for him to have a rest. So maybe he plays in the finale. Maybe you give them a few minutes. You let the starters go out there. Almost like preseason in the NFL where you play guys for the first quarter, you let them run their reps, and then they sit the rest of the game and you put them into you just bench them. You put them on the sideline. Helmets off, boys. You can hit the showers now.
But it's funny. We've projected, and I'll say projected the rested Serge is a good Serge, is a better Serge. Don't judge Serge off short rest. To end the season, the last 2.5 weeks has been the toughest schedule the Raptors have had throughout the year when you look at travel and the frequency of games. And find me a time this year when Serge has been better.
There hasn't been. There hasn't been a time where Serge has been better this season. Actually, there was that one little strip, remember, in January where he started to light it up and people were saying, oh, my God, is this Serge now? Did Serge finally did he get in a rhythm? Is this finally him? Did he hit his stride? He went away, and he went away in a really strong fashion. But, again, I'm going to tell you those numbers again in those last 8 games because this has been basically the playoff stretch. I almost thought about not including this game because it didn't really matter, but then Serge played the way that he did, and I felt like I had to include it. He's got 15 points a game on 56% shooting, 8 rebounds a game, 2 blocks a game, and he's shooting 50% from 3 in his last 8 games. Is there anything that you feel like when you're watching him right now? Because, again, to me, it's the decision-making. Is there anything right now that really makes you feel comfortable or better about him as we hit the stretch? Like, what's changed for him in your eyes?
I don't think he was as bad as he played. I think he's reverting back to who he normally is, should be. And I wondered, I mean, we kind of said the same thing differently. You felt he was old. I thought he was hurt, and we didn't know about it. So some would say those are one and the same, right? When you're old, you get hurt. But he definitely looks like his spring is back. His second jump is back in a big way. And you talked about the fact that when we were watching pregame, that he's hunting blocks. A Serge hunting blocks, I mean,
it's good to a point.
It's good to a point. Granted, you don't want him flying across the lane and leaving people under the basket for wide open dunks. But a Serge with a defensive mentality is a good thing because when we criticize Serge, part of it's the rebounds. Part of it is when the ball's on the floor. But a big part of it is his strength has kind of deteriorated over years, and that's protecting the rim.
I think one thing we're finding out about him, too, is that when he gets to face a little bit, that the time of Serge Ibaka going out to the three-point line and defending wings effectively is receding. He's not as good at that anymore. But when you put him up against a little bit more of a offensively challenged forward, and you let him roam around, and you let him essentially play the rover role that LeBron James plays on defense for the Cavs, he's still super effective at that. He's still really good at that. If you need someone to come in on a help or come help on a switch or come with a help side block or contest a bigger player down on the low block, those are all things Serge Ibaka does really well still. He's not the elite defensive phenom that he used to be, again, in the Thunder days. But I think that you've seen over the last couple of games anyways, Serge look a little bit more comfortable in his role. And I don't think that you're putting him out there anymore as, hey, this is your stopper, this is your anchor. But he's still an effective defensive player. I think it's actually a little bit like what you see with Fred VanVleet. When Fred VanVleet is not just constantly having a bigger player on him that can take him to the basket, you see all the other little things he does. Again, as a help defender, as someone who gets into people, who gives you those little stretches against guys. But I just think that it's a simplified game for Serge, that it's working for him, that his confidence looks high. Maybe it was a health concern, like you say, but to me, it's just that he's taking better shots. He's not over dribbling. He's passing the ball. He's moving the ball better than we've seen him for a long, long time. And he's getting stops on defense, and he's getting blocks, and that provides him with energy and confidence. Serge has been great. A bunch of people got in the mentions today. I don't know if they got in yours as well about the wings. Tonight, when CJ Miles was starting to go off, I got some tweets here that were like, CJ on fire, hashtag SN Raps. JD needs to talk about how CJ can't miss from deep in the postgame, hashtag SN Raps. I'm going to get to this right now. Yes, I'm very happy CJ Miles is hitting 3-point shots. What did he finish tonight? Like 5 of 10. Yeah, 22 points, 5 of 10 from deep. Really nice game. Really nice game. Had a couple of threes, too, where some bad Magic players were giving him some closeouts, and he went to line for 3 shots twice in the game. So I'm even going to count those 2 as well, even though he missed a free throw on one of them at least. It's hard for me to look at what CJ Miles did tonight and say that's, like, it just looked like he was at practice, like he was scrimmaging. And what I saw from him didn't look like playoff basketball. CJ Miles isn't going to have bad Magic players running into him at the 3-point line, giving him those fouls. CJ Miles isn't going to be able to have just the freedom to be having a fall away 3 from the corner and just take it at will and not face any consequences for it. I didn't think his game tonight, it was 22 points. He was good on him. He shot the ball well. Didn't have a turnover, which is something that's plagued him over this recent stretch. I'm not reading too much into it because I just still think that he's getting his confidence back. That's all well and good. If we start seeing it in the next 3 games, I'll be a lot happier about it. But we've seen this before. And again, I hate to bring up Patrick Patterson. I know he's a better shooter than Patrick Patterson. Career, everywhere he's been better. But I want to see him in those high pressure situations, in those big games. Because this year I have memories of him knocking him down against the Houston Rockets in the first matchup. But I have more memories of CJ Miles failing to step up for the Raptors in big regular season moments this season than coming through. And so until the playoffs, until he starts knocking those down, I can't give him too much credit for one regular season game where essentially, again, he did his job, which is be a 3-point threat.
See, I'm going to give him credit. And I'm going to give actually the position of 3 for the game credit.
Yeah.
And if he came out and he scored 2 points, you would be super frustrated and you'd crush him.
I don't think so because it's the Magic. I don't even know how these guys get up for this game. It's hilarious. What did the Raptors win by tonight? 20 points?
But you should give him credit that he did get up for the game.
They won by 11.
CJ Miles, 22 points, 5 3-pointers. His only better performance is when he had a season high at 24. OG Anunoby, 21 points, 5 3-pointers. His only better performance is when he went 6 of 7 from 3 right before Christmas against Charlotte. The 3 position, I mean, you've gone on about it in this very space in previous games about why can't the Raptors get a 3? We need a 3. The 3 is the Achilles heel. I don't trust either of the 3s. We need a 3. These guys were good from 3 at the 3. So I will give them credit. I'm not going to run out and tell you to buy an OG Anunoby jersey or a CJ Miles jersey or that it's a fix-all. But in a game where, you're right, nothing really mattered, the fact that they played well, I think is a good sign. Because if they didn't play well, we would have a different discussion. The listeners, 1-888-666-0590, star 590, hashtag SNRaps, they would be having a different discussion. The tenor of this would be entirely different. So I will give those guys credit. I think it was a professional performance by those 2, especially leading the way, but the entire team as a whole. You got 2 starters out and 2 guys who are offensive players for the most part out. You got 2 other guys go out due to injury who are going to play rotation minutes, and yet still you have 7 guys in double figures. To me, that means that you're taking, forget about the opponent, right? People talk about you're playing the faceless opponent. You are taking the last 3 opportunities to get some sort of real NBA reps before the playoffs serious, and I think that's a good sign.
But you just told me like you want to see more rest than anything else, and I really think that
that's from the staff of the leadership, the coach, and the GM. The players aren't going to jump up and say I want to rest. They need to actually attack this as if it matters.
But I think that's only a few guys. I think that if you're looking at it, and even the body language of some of these players, I think the guys who are looking at this with the highest level of importance are all your three wing players. So from that standpoint, I do agree with you that like CJ Miles, good on him that he had this game. But again, it was also a game where there was zero pressure ever. CJ Miles could have gone 0 for 1,000 in that game, and he would get to stay out there as long as he wanted to, and he would have got to play against the Magic. Him knocking down open three-point shots, like I expect him to make those shots, and I especially expect him to make them against the Orlando Magic in a blowout. That's all I'm saying is that I don't read as much into his performance as I do, say, Norm Powell's and OG Anunoby's, because the sample size and the track record is a little bit smaller. CJ Miles has a track record and a history of being a really good three-point shooter, and one that's been in a little bit of a funk lately, and especially when the Raptors have needed him on a stretch where they've been trying to lock up the 1 seed and facing some of their most dire opponents, where they really need wins, where they're facing the creme de la creme, and he had his worst game of the season against the Boston Celtics in a game that really meant something, and he didn't rebound against them the second time out. I want to talk about those other wings, though, because I think there are some takeaways there. I just want to hit a couple of these tweets. Quacktrick Swayze at Quackish tweets in, if Ibaka, Siakam, Pirtle, and JV defend the ball the way they have been all season, Raps will be a heavy problem in the playoffs. They just need to play Raptors ball of 2018, not of 2017. I agree with this. I don't know what this one means. From Fraser Deacon, at Fraser W. Deacon, thoughts on the baby dinosaurs reference? Hashtag SN Raps. You know what that is?
No.
Neither do I. Moving on. But this one was actually, Sazy's set question was, CJ Miles is hit and miss. When he comes out and he plays from 3, he's deadly. That's all he can do, but you'd like to see him play a bit better in the playoffs, though. Hashtag SN Raps. I agree with that, of course. Need to see him play better. Although tonight, pretty much as good as it gets. The shot selection, though, did not resemble the shot selection of any player in a playoff game. The other wings, though, do you not think that Norm looked, is this just me? Norm looked more like Norm tonight.
I think Norm looked like Norm. I think OG looked like OG. I think they both were aggressive.
Right.
Hustle plays, running down loose balls, good defense. I think it was an encouraging sign.
But Norm specifically.
At times embarrassing T-Ross. I thought Norm played well. Starter Norm is a good Norm. Off the bench, Norm can't really find his way.
It seems like the door is now closed on the idea of Malcolm Miller, because the last time the Raptors played the Magic, I believe that was the game where they first bypassed Norman Powell to sit him for Malcolm Miller. If I'm not mistaken, that was the case. Now, Norman Powell gets the start. I felt a little bad for him because I don't know how he came back in this ball game, but he looked like he was in some pretty serious discomfort early in that basketball game. First quarter, he left with a left ankle sprain, and I thought that was it for him. And I was actually, one of my takeaways was going to be, that's a really unfortunate injury for the Raptors, because as poorly as he's played this season, they don't have the depth at that position to have an injury to Norman Powell. Because there's still scenarios where, again, I see him getting into a series, especially if the Raptors end up in the first round against the Washington Wizards and you're drawing up multiple games against John Wall and Bradley Beal. You're going to need another perimeter defender to go out on those guys. Norm Powell will play minutes against the Washington Wizards if that's the first round matchup. But he just looked, again, this is the same thing that I'm feeling with Serge Ibaka, is that he looked more comfortable. He looked more like Norm Powell. He's attacking the paint. He was doing his thing where he leaves his feet before he finds the guy he wants to pass the ball to. And he was taking some threes and knocking them down tonight. It was almost like he and CJ Miles were in a competition for Dwayne Casey's love by who could hit the most three-point shots. Like, it was a three-point contest for who gets to be the first wing player off the bench. CJ won. But I just thought Norm looked comfortable. He got out in transition. He was playing some decent defense. He looked comfortable. He looked like the guy that we were used to last season and that we had high expectations for this year. Like, he's a player lately. I look a lot into the body language, and he looked right today.
I didn't expect to see any Malcolm Miller. You want to know why? Because Malcolm Miller, Malachi Richardson, Alfonso McKinney, Lorenzo Brown, they're being rested for the G League Championship.
Yeah. Game 1 tonight or
they
tomorrow?
won it back to back. Shout out to Raptors 905, who you could say is the best run franchise underneath the MLSE umbrella right now. All they do is
TFC just won. Are they not MLSE?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, that's what I thought. They just won a title. They've been in back-to-back finals.
They've been around a lot longer than 905. It took them a while to get good. They spent a lot of money to get good.
You're supposed to be Mr. TFC.
Look at I am.
The Argos just win a Grey Cup?
Look at the bench mob. They're doing their job on two fronts. They're winning championships and now could win another one, and they're actually producing real level players to the NBA. Look, what other G League team is doing both things at the same time?
Good for them. I mean, good for them. It's the G League. Who cares? Like, honestly, no one cares about the G League. No one ever will.
Well,
it's nice that guys do that, but
you better thank the G League for the bench mob that you love so much.
Listen, it's good that they develop down there. What I'm saying is, if they can rack up as many rings as they want, they're not going to be the most successful organization.
I'm not saying you need to go to the parade. I'm just saying they are.
The parade? They get a parade?
You're damn right they will. No. Mississauga, stand up. Where were you last year?
Not paying attention to the G League.
Well, guess what?
I'll be paying attention next year when that guy who forego the draft to go to the G League, the guy who projects to be a top 10 pick, who spurns Syracuse, I'll be watching for that guy. But other than that, I don't got time for that.
You better thank the G League for Pascal Siakam, Jakob Poeltl, Fred VanVleet, DeLon Wright, Norman Powell, Lucas Nogueira.
Yeah, I think they'd all be pretty good, even without the G League. It's been a success. I just can't be bothered about the playoffs. Azon, this game for me was just about the players finding and maintaining the rhythm, and so they did. I'm happy about it. I agree. Zach tweets in, you may have touched on this already, but how big of a game for OG tonight? Going into the playoffs, confidence is going to be huge for him. Hashtag SN Raps. I agree. I actually thought, again, the game tonight, this was my biggest impression that I was left with tonight. OG Anunoby seems to be coming a little bit out of the rookie wall. And the reason I say this is, like, if you look at his recent games, Denver, 7 points, 3 rebounds. Clippers, 7 points, 4 rebounds. A couple of assists in both of those games. He's just consistently hitting his shots. There's no game in here where he drops under 42% since the game against, let's see here, the Magic, where he missed only 2. He had only 2 attempts. So last time they played the Magic, last time they were shorthanded, dude only played 14 minutes. Tonight he gets 34. They're getting to expand OG Anunoby's wings a little bit, stretch him back out. He looks right. His three-point shot looks passable. Like, I don't expect OG to be raining down threes come postseason time. But, again, you have no wing depth, and you don't have anybody with his size that can play his defense. Like, it's just not – they just don't have that guy. They don't have another body quite like OG Anunoby. And even though he's a little raw, and not a little raw, even though he's very raw, and he's still working – you've said this before, he's the most athletic, unathletic guy that there is, or looks the most unathletic to his actual athletic ability. He still seems to be growing into his body, figuring out his coordination. But some of that's been coming along a little bit better lately, and I feel like the minutes he's been giving the Raptors since that Cleveland game especially, where LeBron just kicked his teeth in and it was really an unfortunate game for OG, that he's given them better signs of life and given them better minutes over the last little stretch.
Are you concerned about this guy? Because, I mean, I don't really get, I'm going to be honest, I don't really get that you don't put stock in what C.J. Miles did, but you do put stock in what OG did, but that's fine.
Smaller sample sizes.
Well, we're talking about this game meaning nothing and them both playing well.
What I'm saying is
sample sizes tonight.
No, I know, but the sample sizes of what I've seen for their careers and what I've seen of their seasons. And so my point with CJ Miles is that the sample size of shooting almost 9 threes a game for the last 2 months and knocking them down at a very poor clip and not performing in big games where they needed his shooting, he's the most vital part of everyone that we just discussed.
But if you talk about sample size, C.J. Miles is a proven NBA player who's hit threes over the course of his career. OG Anunoby's a rookie. So why would you give the benefit of the doubt to OG but not C.J.?
What do you mean benefit of the doubt? I'm saying I liked his game.
You liked whose game?
OG's.
Right. So, but you are saying I am taking stock in what OG did tonight.
No, over the last stretch of games, I've liked him. He had his best game tonight, but I've liked his last stretch. That's the whole point I just made. Is that it's been since the Cleveland game that he's looked a lot better on both ends. He's played better defense, he's been shooting better, and he's been more active on the offensive end with ball cuts and screens.
So you're saying it's a continuation of a trend?
Yes, this is the peak of him playing his best basketball since way before the injury. Like, I'm looking at OG's games, and the dude had basically been a ghost since that Golden State game in February. Like, there's no games. There's no track record in here. Since he was injured, the guy was awful. We had all these discussions of, as bad as Norm Powell has been, you need to put him in the starting lineup just to see, because OG's not giving you anything. And my point is that recently he seems to be coming out of it a little bit. Recently, he's been better pretty much everywhere on the floor. He's given the Raptors meaningful minutes. And that's always been my thing with CJ is OG, is that give the Raptors something every night when you're playing in that starting unit. Give them a little bit of something. Either knock down an open three-point shot, make a good cut to the basket and finish for a dunk, play some decent defense and slow somebody down. Give them something. There have been too many games where he'd given them nothing. Lately, the stretch, especially those opening few minutes, he's been good. He's been decent.
Okay. I understand. I don't necessarily agree. I understand. If we're talking about trends, someone who is not trending high right now is Kyle Lowry. Tonight, 11 points. All right, he's going to play, small minutes. It's a game that doesn't matter. He played 30 minutes. Shot 30% from the floor, 11 from 3. He's not shot the ball well. He's had some games where the jumper from 3 has been super wet, but overall he hasn't shot the ball well from the floor. Are you concerned?
Not really. I'm concerned about them from already pre-existing doubts, right? I've said this before. DeRozan and Lowry have shot under 40% in their career from the field in the postseason. That's enough for me to look at it and say, all right, maybe something's here. I'm a little concerned that in the first round, DeMar DeRozan might have to face a really good defensive player in Otto Porter, and Kyle Lowry is going to get to face a really good defensive player in John Wall, and also Satoransky, who has a lot of size at his position. I don't think Lowry looks out of shape or he looks worn down, which is my biggest positive that I can take from him, and that we just saw him raining threes from everywhere, and we just know when Kyle Lowry gets on a hot streak and gets on a heater that he's still the most important Raptors player. So I'm not concerned. I don't really have any flags up right now saying let's really monitor the Kyle Lowry situation because, again, he doesn't look burnt out. He doesn't look beat up. And that's why Dwayne Casey's playing him in the final minutes of a game against the Orlando Magic. So, yeah, would I like to see him perform a little bit better? Yeah, but I think out of all the guys, again, this goes back to my CJ Miles point, I think it's harder for the veteran players to get up for these games. Because Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan and Jonas Valanciunas, like those dudes have been in this situation with the Raptors over the last couple seasons where they've had these good regular seasons. They know that they're just trying to peak for the postseason now, that they just need to be right for round one. So if that means like Kyle Lowry taking some shifts off or taking some possessions off defensively or just deciding to make a couple of bad decisions or try to be a little bit more passive and look for his teammates, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to read anything into Kyle and DeMar or too much more into right now. I wouldn't mind if they got that last game and they both tried to score a bunch because DeMar, especially to me, looks a little bit not out of sorts, but just doesn't look like he's playing the same offensive game as he was before. Like that he looks a little out of sync and he looks like he has been a little too passive lately. But I'm okay with Kyle. Like, are you concerned with Kyle?
I mean, he's certainly not playing inspiring basketball. I'm not concerned because I don't know if it'll matter because of Fred, and which is why I think he needs to be healthy. DeLon, because there are other people who can score on this team, and because we're at a point right now in the East, who are the other point guards that are going to outplay him? Kyrie's not walking through that door. Kemba, not in the playoffs.
Jose Calderon outplayed him fairly recently.
Sure did. But in general, a lot of the guys who are playing point guard in the East aren't point guards. Mm-hmm. Ben Simmons. Giannis ends up with the ball in his hand a lot, even though Eric Bledsoe can really make things difficult for you defensively. There aren't John Wall, I suppose, if he's not taking terrible shots late and making his team worse. There aren't a lot of elite point guards in these. You look at the other side of the bracket where every night it's a guy who feels like he should be all NBA. So that's necessarily why I'm not overly concerned because he can't be as bad as he was a year ago, which is why we have an entirely different offensive philosophy. So that isn't the case. But, I mean, he's going to roll out of bed and break even with a lot of the other point guards he's going to play.
Fraser, by the way, Deacon tweeted back in. He's explaining. So ESPN and other American networks, they refer to the Raptors as baby dinosaurs. Doesn't a 58-win season so far justify a little bit more respect? Hashtag SNRaps. Chill out.
I mean,
chill out, Fraser.
They're referred to as the
okay.
Drakes.
It's okay.
I don't know.
They're the baby dinosaurs. Like they have a bunch of baby dinosaurs on their team. They got the bench mob. They're young. I don't think it's a disrespect thing. I think people just call teams like just chill out. Just Fraser, chill out.
You know what people do respect though?
Yeah, what?
Not home court. 34-7, best record at home in the East, best record in the history of the franchise at home. To go an entire NBA season and only lose 7 games at home is kind of ridiculous. And now that they have home court throughout the playoffs, I hope it helps in game ones. Listen, Platinums, we're going to need you in your seats in the first and third quarter. So
they'll be there.
That home
will be fine. Depends on the time of the games.
Playoffs get more Gucci than normal.
I know.
Gucci roll extends a little bit farther in the playoffs.
Every single Raptors game I've ever been in the postseason, the crowd has been late arriving. I don't know why it changes, because usually you go to a Raptors regular season game and it's nothing like Miami Heat, where you go and no one's there until late in the third or middle of the third quarter. But yeah, the Raptors fans have been a little slow to the seats, honestly, in the playoffs so far in the last couple of rounds. Until the Cleveland series. They were really good against Cleveland in 2015.
And not all fans. There are thousands of people there hours before the game to watch the game on the side of the street. But many fans who aren't going to the games wearing free T-shirts sponsored by whoever decided to sponsor it that day, or wearing a jersey, who are there wearing heels and a dress or a suit and dress shoes, they're not necessarily there early or often.
One thing I didn't care for tonight, baseball season leaking into the ACC. Raptors fans doing the wave. I'm not the biggest hater of the wave. I know they were beating down the Orlando Magic. I just want to make sure one thing absolutely does not happen. If it's close in a Raptors game in the postseason, God help me if I see the wave. God help Eric Smith, the king hater of the wave, if something happens like that. So yeah, again, it's going to be a tough little stretch here for the Raptors to stay focused. I don't know what we're going to read into. I hope OG continues to play well. I agree with you. I hope that the Raptors stay rested. Outside of that, like, nothing's going to really change your opinion on anything these next two games. Really, I like I said, the last couple of weeks have changed my opinion on the minutes that you can give OG Anunoby and the responsibilities they can get. They've changed my opinion, I guess, a little bit on Serge Ibaka, who up until that stretch had been having one of his worst stretches of basketball in his entire career. But outside of that, there's nothing that Kyle Lowry can do. There's nothing that DeMar DeRozan can do. There's nothing Jonas Valanciunas or anyone on the bench mob can do. The two guys the guys I'm going to be looking forward to the most is going to be, again, the threes. The wings are going to be the guys who still have something to play for. I think there's a reason that Norm Powell is getting a few more minutes right now. I think that Casey is less sure of what CJ Miles is going to get. I think that he feels more confident he would play in a Wizards series. I think he wants OG Anunoby to be feeling good heading into the postseason and feel like he's more of a contributor. But yeah, the three to me is the thing. I don't think anybody's going to do anything. We've seen a little bit more of that DeLon Wright look with the starters. We saw it last game. I don't mind that in stretches, but again, can't defend some size. So there are some problems there. But yeah, overall, pretty good game from the Raptors. Pretty good stretch. I'm happy that they don't have T. Ross anymore. I don't regret that trade. I was looking at that one. If you could have picked one guy right now to put on the Raptors roster that they would need more, would you take Biz or would you take T. Ross?
Oh, Bismack. Not even close. Not even close. Issues at the three or not, I would take Bismack all day, every day.
Okay.
Well, give me the 5 great T. Ross playoff moments. He stole an inbounds.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it.
That was huge, though. That was like the initial biggest moment ever.
It was.
That was the first Raptors playoff moment. Actually, Patterson.
No, Alvin Williams had a little crossover step back from 18 feet.
I'm talking about the We the North era.
Vasquez hit a couple big threes. Yeah, no, I'm no.
That was the first one, though. That like Patrick Patterson hit that 3 on the road in Game 6 against Brooklyn. But then in Game 7, it was the T. Ross tip and steal to set them up for that opportunity to have the heartbreak. But I would still say that I would take Biz too. I was just curious if that your answer would be maybe T. Ross, considering how the lack of depth on the wing, and that maybe he gives you, like, if you were to get a veteran minimum buyout, you're going to add another front court player to the mix. The reason I like Biz is that you can still put him into that LeBron role where you're asking Bismack Biyombo to play defense on LeBron for a few minutes.
He had 20 rebounds in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He had a great block on LeBron and another great block that was called a foul that pretty much is the moment of that series with the ACC losing it and ESPN replaying it over and over and over and over again. I would take Bismack.
Yeah, like I said, I would take him too, but it would be for the sole reason of you're planning on seeing LeBron James and put more ammunition in a LeBron James meter. But all of a sudden, if you had him, you'd be looking at this thing where you're saying, what bigs do we play? Which big is already out? The team already can't play Lucas Nogueira, and we've seen that he's halfway decent forward. Why not give him a few minutes?
Well, you love DeLon Wright at the 3. I'd rather play DeLon Wright at the 3 than give Terrence Ross any minutes.
Yeah, probably. That's fairly true. So the Raptors, again, don't regret either of those trades. They definitely don't. But the Serge Ibaka trade and where we stand right now, looking back on it, you lost Terrence Ross and Anzis Pasanic, which was, I think, the 26th overall pick to the Orlando Magic. That's still been a really good trade for this team, no?
No question.
There's no question, right? You take that, you still do that deal 10 times out of 10, 100 times out of 100, and that's okay. What else do I got here before we wrap up? Anything else? Any good tweets?
I just want to say this, and it'll be interesting to see as the games come down. Washington now a game back of both Milwaukee and Miami, so it is looking more and more likely that the Wizards from the Verizon Center will be playing the Raptors. Get ready for some messed up scheduling, Raptors fans, and don't lose it. Don't lose your mind. No respect. We're the one seed. But listen, these are two teams who have two teams playing still in their buildings. The Washington Capitals are going to have dates, as well as the Wizards. The Raptors and the Leafs are sharing a building. The scheduling on this series is going to be messed up from the jump street. Just deal with it. It's going to be that way. If this team is that good, they are going to go far enough in the playoffs that they are going to be seen in prime time. Relax.
I thought I had a false memory, I guess. I thought that the Wizards had really struggled down the stretch before they came in and swept the Raptors in 2015. But now they were fine. Because I was saying, I'm still
they were bad against the Raptors.
They were
specifically.
Bad. They weren't bad against the league. They weren't bad against the league. They had a pretty good stretch. It's funny, though, that was twice. The Raptors have had that a couple of times in the postseason, right, where that was supposed to be the team of destiny. Remember, they lost to that Wizards team, and everyone was saying, look out, that Wizards team next year, they could really do something. They could really make some noise, and then they missed the playoffs. And then last year, the Raptors faced the Bucks, and everyone was saying, look out for the Bucks. Bucks could be a team in the East. They're a dark horse, and they're going to finish in the bottom three in the playoff positions. They're basically the same team. No real growth for them either this season.
Washington's lost their last 4, 2 of their last 8. If you had to choose between the 3 teams at the bottom, who would you choose
to face?
Yeah,
I think I would still be facing the Heat. They got they're deep and they're well coached, and they probably have a bunch of guys that are going to hurt you. Maybe that series beats you up a little bit. Actually, the more I think about it, the Bucks. Now I just talk myself out of the Heat. I don't like the fact that they're gonna get in a rock fight with you. Dwayne Wade's gonna step under somebody. Goran Dragic's gonna step under somebody. Bam's gonna be laying down hard fouls. So Whiteside's gonna mix it up with Serge.
So it sounds like anyone but Washington for you.
I don't want Washington.
If you had to rank them starting from least to most favorable,
I would least want to face the Wizards because I just think that they have the best 7 guys. They have the best 7-man unit right now. That scares me. And I think that Bradley Beal is a legit shot maker. I think if John Wall gets hot, and I think that he's going to be looking at this as you forgot about John Wall and you've disrespected John Wall too much. I think he gets up for that challenge. Otto Porter has a real history of slowing down DeMar DeRozan and really being a matchup problem for him. Satoransky has emerged this year as a really tough player, really good player. Kelly Oubre gives you minutes. I like him as well. I like Morris. And Gortat, for whatever reason, does a really good job against JV. And they always battle, and he seems to get the better of him in the pick and roll all the time. So, yeah, Washington dead last. And then I would say the Heat because of the reasons I just said. And lastly, the Bucks. I think the Raptors figured out the Bucks last year, and they should have beat them in that overtime game this season when JV dunked all over Henson and didn't get the foul call. I just don't know what the strategy is for them to win outside of the same thing that we've always been afraid of, which was Giannis takes over for 4 games and beats you in them. But Raps figured them out last year. They unlocked that Bucks team, and the Bucks haven't gotten any better. Like, do you feel the same way, or is it different rankings for you?
I don't know if they unlocked them. They played slightly less bad offense, and they won the series in 7 games. Milwaukee, to me, is by far the team I would not want to see.
Really?
By far.
Damn, I can't believe we're the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Well, I mean, I'm surprised you're surprised. This goes against everything that I believe because I'm a culture guy, I'm a process guy, I'm a coaching guy. And so that would say you wouldn't want to face Miami, who has all those things. I'm a depth guy, but I'm also a stars guy. And Washington and Milwaukee
so you're just an everything guy.
Stars. And I'd rather face Miami because I think they have less guys, 1, that give my stars problems, but 2, you have less guys who can win a series by themselves. And in the playoffs, that's often what happens.
Watch Dwayne Wade just have a reemergence against the Toronto Raptors.
Quite possible. He could be wearing his leanings and dunking all over the Raptors.
We're back tomorrow. Raptors face the Pistons. Blake Griffin and the Pistons. Going to talk actually a lot about Blake Griffin in that after show. I got a lot of Blake Griffin thoughts. I got a lot of Pistons thoughts. So if we can't fill up the full hour of just Raptors, thanks again for the tweets. Thanks to everybody that tweeted in the show today. We always appreciate those. We're back tomorrow night after the Pistons-Raptors game. This was Raptors postgame on Sportsnet.ca.